in its various forms, together with mediation and conciliation, is the future. I do recognize that, and I'm all in favor for that. In fact, we have been training our officers in the department, in the Attorney General's chambers, since about 5-6 years ago, this art and discipline. It is something that most advanced countries have already got themselves involved with. We have international arbitrations centers, including centers like ICSID, PCA, and so forth. Now, those are very, very important institutions. They resemble also our domestic in its various forms, as I've said just now. They resemble our domestic arbitrations. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not go further than that because I'm here only to have that cup of coffee this morning as compensation for me to deliver this, or rather read this speech of the minister. So if there is any mistakes, I am not responsible for it. I guess I don't have to repeat what I have addressed just now, except that, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Malaysia for the 4th conference of the Regional Arbitral Institutes Forum. One of the hallmarks of a civil society is the ready access to fair and just dispute resolution mechanisms. Without this defining feature, law and order would break down, and with it, trade and economic growth, as we know it, would stagnate and even grind to a halt. It would not be out of place, ladies and gentlemen, for me to remind you that arbitration and alternative dispute resolution are not mere handmaidens to commerce and industry. They are themselves multi-million-dollar international industries. The dispute resolution business is lucrative, relatively risk-free, and seems to enjoy perpetual growth. We have therefore every reason to ensure that arbitration and its allied dispute resolution mechanisms stay relevant, user-friendly, and cost-effective. This is especially so in an era where international trade and commerce are the backbone of economic growth. To put it in practical terms, we must ensure that a businessman in India selling his wares to someone in Malaysia can be confident that if the transaction goes sour, he will have recourse to a first-class dispute resolution mechanism in Malaysia. For my own, I hope it is the same in India. The same holds true for the commercial dealings between all our countries. Viewing things from this perspective, I must say that the theme which you have picked or chosen for your conference today is extremely relevant and topical. It is important that we are focused not only on developing our own dispute resolution systems, but we explore also how we may cooperate regionally so as to serve and benefit from regional commerce and trade. Ladies and gentlemen, at least 30% of the world's trade and 50% of the world's energy pass through the Straits of Malacca. Already, Malaysia's MIC Berhad is the world's largest single owner of LNG tankers. The volume of trade between ASEAN member states with the ASEAN plus 3 countries for the year 2008 was in the order of $1 trillion. Malaysia anticipates under the 3rd Industrial Master Plan, that is the IMP3, that its trade volume alone will hit 2.8 trillion ringgit by the year 2020. In short, the economic achievement of the nations in this region is nothing short of staggering, and by all indicators is set to grow at a steady pace. All of which tells me that it would be unwise if the countries of this region do not try to support and benefit from this growing regional economy by constantly scrutinizing and improving their dispute resolution mechanisms. I wholeheartedly support the call for regional cooperation in this field. International trade and commerce has a language of its own. Its syntax is one of speed, efficiency, accuracy, and, most important, cost effectiveness. Dispute resolution mechanisms which do not speak this language and linger in an old world mentality would obstruct and impede growth. I note that many of the countries in this region have adopted the ancestral model law of arbitration. To my mind, it is a step in the right direction that we have a common legal platform in respect of our arbitration laws. But this is only half the battle. It is pointless having the best laws if they are not implemented in a spirit that was intended. For instance, arbitration would not work if courts take an overly intrusive approach to the arbitral process. Nor would it work if arbitrators hesitate to exercise their wide powers under the available legislations. Once we can take steps to refine the legislation that supports and makes arbitration possible, it seems to me that the area that principally needs attention now is the implementation of the available legislation. This requires, in my humble view, concerted and constant efforts in the following areas, namely, frequent and frank exchange of views between national arbitration bodies, such as those gathered here today, so that we may learn from each other's experiences and experiments. Secondly, continuing education so that arbitrators and arbitration practitioners are kept abreast with the developments, or rather the latest developments in the law. Thirdly, refinements to the selection process of arbitrators so that arbitrators are well qualified, impartial, and independent, and do not allow personality issues to cloud the decision-making process. Fourthly, consultation with end users, particularly the parties who appear in arbitration domestically and internationally, to obtain consumer feedbacks. Unless we have a service-oriented approach that is committed to self-improvement, we will fail to meet the expectations. Last but not least, arbitrators and arbitration practitioners should keep their fees reasonable. The Malaysian government has always been committed to arbitration, and I reaffirm that commitment today. More than 30 years ago, the Kuala Lumpur Regional Center for Arbitration was established in Malaysia. The volume of work that it handles and its reputation as a fine arbitration center has grown over the years. The center is embarking on a major renovation to upgrade its premises, to improve its facilities, and to create additional space. On my own, we are now actually embarking to a new premise. We are hoping that the new premise would be a better place, because then it will provide sufficient rooms for both arbitrators, our clients, and the staffs. We should be able to, when we have that building, after the renovations, we should have ample, sufficient space of even maybe about 35 to 40 rooms. We have to make it as comfortable and as accessible as possible. That would define a new era under Mr. Sundar Raju arbitration in Malaysia. And I hope the best for you. Now I continue with my minister's speech. I encourage each of you to visit the center and to see for yourself the facilities that it has to offer. But of course, we'll have better ones in future. The center has a new director in the form of Mr. Sundar Raju, himself a well-known arbitrator. I'm confident that under his leadership, the Kuala Lumpur Regional Centre will continue to grow from strength to strength. I'm not denying this, although I'm reading the minister's speech. Finally, I thank the Malaysian Institute of Arbitrators for inviting me to this event. I bid you a great conference, and I now declare the 4th conference of the Regional Arbitral Institutes Forum open. So ladies and gentlemen, I have done and fulfilled my duty for that cup of coffee this morning, but at the same time, it is a great pleasure for me to meet you, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope the best for you, because within our region, the only way to go forward and to move the economy and industries is to go by arbitration, mediation and conciliation. I know, I'm fully aware that conciliation is not a practice that we have really been looking at, but I think there is some use for it in certain circumstances, including mediation. I think, ladies and gentlemen, although you people are in arbitration, I think those are the two forms of mediation as a whole is very interesting and very relevant today. I believe the courts have also gone into mediation process to some of the cases and have successfully settled a lot of the cases pending before the courts very efficiently and with cost effectiveness. And this is where all of you, ladies and gentlemen, can play a very important role. It will, so that matters can be settled before even arriving in courts. Otherwise, we'll be overburdening our system. The system, any system for that matter, whether it's Malaysia, India, Brunei, Singapore, will not be able to sustain a continuous attack on the system. Attack means the applications, all kind of applications will come in. And I'm not saying that everybody should be forbidden from seeking justice, no, but arbitration is a form of justice too, the application rather. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope for the best, and I believe that you people can make it, and I think you people will be of great help not only to Malaysia, but all to your own nations too. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Token of our appreciation to you. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short break. Please make your way to the foyer. It's 9:45 now. We'll probably be back here by latest at about 9:55 or 10, because we're slightly behind time now. So if you could just make your way to the foyer, and there'll be some refreshments served. Thank you. We'll begin our first session this morning, and the chairperson for this session needs no introduction. It's none other than Mr. Suraraju himself, the director of the Kuala Lumpur Regional Centre for Arbitration. Together with him, we have Mr. Chan Ling San, Mr. Gary Su, Mr. Lau Hang Chung, and Datuk WSW Davidson. It's over to you now, Mr. Sudra.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first session. We are going to talk about the legislative framework for arbitration. And the legislative framework for arbitration is very important. It is because the rule of law is actually the essential ingredient for arbitration, just like for justice. And the legislative framework upholds the rule of law. So I think the more important thing is that it ensures that arbitration is an effective dispute resolution mechanism, and it consists, the legislative framework consists of various laws, rules, and guidelines governing the arbitral process. In a general context. It ensures that the rights